Hey everyone, so for my teaching project, I'm going to be covering the concept of differential reinforcement, which is a concept we went over way earlier in the semester. So without further ado, let's get into it. So in order to understand differential reinforcement, we first are going to need to understand these three concepts. The first one being a functional analysis, and that's the process of identifying reinforcers of a behavior through the scientific method. So if Timmy is rolling around on the floor, we're going to kind of go over a bunch of different possible reinforcers, um, and then like present them to Timmy and basically see which one is increasing the likelihood of him rolling around on the floor. Reinforcement, of course, since it's differential reinforcement, and that's whenever a consequence increases the likelihood of a behavior. And then, of course, operant extinction being the third term. That is whenever we are removing a consequence that is manipulating a behavior's occurrence, whether it's punishing or reinforcing. So the definition of differential reinforcement is a previously reinforced behavior is placed on extinction while a second, more adaptive behavior is reinforced. And all this basically means is that we are combining the processes of reinforcement and extinction by extinguishing an unwanted behavior, getting rid of that reinforcer, and then reinforcing an alternate behavior in its place. That way, the behavior doesn't start to kind of resurge, or a less adaptive or less desirable behavior doesn't take its place. Now, of course, the core components or the steps of differential reinforcement are exactly the same three terms that we went over earlier. First year, we're going to want to do a functional analysis, identify what is reinforcing the undesirable behavior. And then you're going to want to go to step two and place, whenever you find that out, and you're going to want to place that on extinction. Um, and then that is what's going to start reducing the unwanted behavior. And then, of course, step three is reinforcing that alternate behavior. So there are five different forms of differential reinforcement that we talked about in class. I'm going to speed run this section since I only have 5 minutes. Differential reinforcement of alternate behavior, a DRA, is whenever we are extinguishing a behavior, and then reinforcing an alternate one in its place, just one that's specifically chosen. DRI, differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, basically exactly the same thing, except you can't do them both at the same time. So sitting on your hands instead of scratching yourself till you bleed, for example. Differential reinforcement of other behavior, that's basically when you're reinforcing any behavior that's not the problem behavior. So if you're scratching yourself till you bleed, walking around or drawing or really anything else. And then these last two, they're basically just inverses of each other. So if you want a behavior to occur more, you do differential reinforcement of high rates of behavior. And if you wanted it to occur less, you do low. And that's whenever, for example, in the case of high, you would extinguish the low rates of responding, and then you would only reinforce whenever they do it at the higher rate of responding. So examples and non-examples of this, his name is Jimmy, by the way, I lied to you. When Jimmy throws a tantrum for attention, his mother does not provide the attention and ignores him. So she's removing the attention, the reinforcer, and extinguishing the tantrum throwing. And then she does give him attention whenever he politely asks to play, so reinforcing politely asking to play. Now, if instead of just simply not giving him attention, if she removes his by like takes away his toys, that's utilizing punishment, which is not differential reinforcement. So just like the previous example and non-example, you want to make sure you're utilizing extinction and not punishment. You also want to make sure you're reinforcing an alternate behavior so another one doesn't take its place. Next, you want to extinguish all response topographies of the behavior and reinforce all response topographies. And then lastly, be consistent and continuously do so, because the change in behavior is not going to happen instantly. Differential reinforcement is important because it reduces unwanted or harmful behaviors through without the negative impacts of punishment. It also helps and promotes the use of more desirable behaviors through the reinforcement half. And lastly, because that reinforcer is obtainable by other means, the absence of the unwanted behavior will be there for longer. In conclusion, differential reinforcement techniques are very effective on both humans and animals. And then lastly, elements of these techniques can be generalizable to other behavioral analysis techniques. Like for example, differential reinforcement of high and low behavior is very similar to the tools that are used for shaping.